Good morning. So I first heard about the honeyberry, which is a cold-tolerant berry bush that produces lots of berries very early in the season. I thought this is a must-have. And it is a must-have, in my opinion, but it's a little different than I think it's been advertised. So I wanted to talk about the truth about honeyberries today. So first off, what is the honeyberry? The honeyberry is a fruiting honeysuckle. It's also called the Haskap, the fly honeysuckle. There are other names, other random names for it, but those are the most popular names. Would be the honeyberry and the Haskap, and also the fly honeysuckle. It is native throughout the northern hemisphere, like Canada, Russia, even Japan. And it's been making its way to the United States because it's a very cold, hardy fruiting bush, and it is an early bloomer and it's an early producer. The berries themselves are not gigantic, and so this is the first possible downside. So you have to be very careful when you're buying your honeyberry bush to make sure that you get a type that is large enough to really be worth your while. For instance, some of the bushes that I've seen honeyberries that are smaller than ½ an inch long, and that amounts to an awful lot of picking and a very small fruit. So that's one thing you have to be cautious about when buying your honeyberry. Also, you might want to look for a variety that's a little on the sweeter side, because quite honestly, they are a little sour. However, you have some control over this. But this is one of the challenges of growing the honeyberry. So the progress that you will see in a honeyberry plant, they will start to bloom in my region, which is 6B. They'll start to bloom as early as April. And then in May, you will start to see berries. And by the beginning of June, sometimes even earlier, they will start to look blue. But here's where the catch is. They look ripe long before they taste their best. So when they first turn blue, then you will start getting optimistic and start trying them. And what you'll find is they're very sour. If you want to get them to their peak of sweetness, you're going to have to wait. But here's the thing. You've got a blue berry that is native to the northern hemisphere. You've got a lot of birds that are adapted to eating these things, and they love them. They're very high in nutrient content. They have antioxidants, very high in vitamin C especially. So you can get your full day supply of vitamin C from honeyberries fairly easily. So the birds eat them right up. So if you don't do something to protect your honeyberries, you're going to have a very hard time keeping them on the bush from that point in, say, early June, when they start to look blue, till the point in early July when they actually taste their best. So people build frames around them. You can use cheesecloth to protect them, but it becomes a little bit of a hassle. And if you don't do this, there's a very good chance that the birds are going to just swoop in and take most of your honeyberries from you. Even in Providence, where I am, Providence, Rhode Island, where I don't have a whole lot of problem keeping blueberries on the bush, honeyberries are gone pretty quickly. The other thing is they will start to drop, and if some of them get a little ripe earlier, or if you have wind come through sometime in June, a really windy day, you'll start to see drops, and that can really cut into what you had hoped would be your yield from these bushes. So my advice to you when you are going to buy a honeyberry is to buy several varieties. Look for large varieties and varieties that are advertised as sweeter. Those are the property that you're going to look for. If you don't look for size, you probably will end up with a smaller honeyberry that will take an awful lot of effort to harvest enough of them to make it worth your while. So you definitely want to look for on the larger side and on the sweeter side. I've got a number of different varieties of honeyberries in my front yard. I don't have enough experience with them and actually getting them to that sweet stage, because it's a real challenge to be able to tell you which ones of mine are sweetest. So I'll just say you will need to do your own research on that. It hasn't been a super fast growing bush for me, and it's a little on the spindly side. It's being a honeysuckle. I think if you're familiar with honeysuckles, it grows like a honeysuckle. And so you need to probably do some pruning if you want it to bush out and not just send up a few kind of scraggly trunks or twigs that might not be as fruitful as you would hope. So it does take a little bit of care, but it is great in the early blooming, and the fact that it's another one of those plants you could plant in your front yard and people would never know that you were planting food. And I think that's kind of cool, but other people do that just because they're a little concerned that their neighbors are going to think that they're starting a farm. And but this is a brilliant stealth edible. It's great for cold climates. Give it some sun. Definitely give them some sun. Give them some. I put mine, and have had good luck putting mine into wood chip mulch. I don't actually know the recommendation, but my assumption is that this is a plant that will do well in acid soil. Don't quote me on that one though. You might have to look up do some research on that. So those have been my main challenges with the honeyberry. So when I bought it, I thought, oh man, I'm gonna get these blueberries by the end of May. Well, not blueberries, but they looked like blueberries. I'm gonna get blueberries by the end of May. It's gonna be the earliest berry I've ever seen. It turns out that my alpine strawberries are earlier. My alpine strawberries are sweeter, and it took less time to establish alpine strawberries than it has taken to wait for the honeyberries to get large enough to really produce a substantial crop. So I am still waiting for that, probably 4 years into my honeyberry experience. Now, part of that's because I moved. I had to transplant them from place to place, and they do transplant really easily. So that is another bonus. The roots don't go that deep, so you can dig the whole thing up and move it without too much of a hassle. So if you need to move it around, that's great. So sometimes it's nice to have a plant like that where you can put it someplace temporarily and then later think, maybe this isn't the best place, I'm going to move it, and do that. And you can do that pretty safely with the honeyberry. I was able to transplant quite a few of them, whereas some of my other bushes, like say the beach plums that I tried to move, just didn't work out. So the honeyberry, easy to move. It's another benefit. So in a lot of ways, there are a lot of benefits to this berry, and I don't want to knock it too much, but it just wasn't the miracle berry that I was hoping, partly because it's just so hard to get them to that stage where they are really tasty. So I hope you have enjoyed this discussion about honeyberries. Perhaps you have something to add, and if you do, please leave it in the comments below. I would really love a thumbs up. Love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and please consider checking out the foodforestgardenclub.org. We're having such an awesome time there, getting together every couple of weeks, chatting on Zoom. We're sharing seeds. We're sharing some plants more locally in New England, but we have actually had people from as far away as Germany join into our chat sessions, and so it's been a great way to bring people together and get people talking about plants. So we're forming community and having a great time. So I hope you will take a look. In the meantime, it's getting closer to spring, so start planting your seeds, what you're going to plant, and have yourself a great day. Thanks.